Long story short is definitely my kind of film, and I'm really pleased to say I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was released in 2021. It's written and directed by Josh Lawson, and it stars Rafe Spall, Zahra Newman, Ronny Chieng, and Noni Hazlehurst is a character who's called the Stranger. And I don't want to say too much about the character of the Stranger, but to make a long story short, she meets Teddy, Rafe Spall's character, in a graveyard, and she tells him that he should get married sooner rather than later because he's recently become engaged. There's no time like the present. Why delay it? And he doesn't think too much about it. Leanne seems quite enthusiastic about getting married soon. And then they are about to get married. And Teddy wakes up and it's 1 year later. He wakes up on the day of their anniversary. And of course, he's baffled. He has no idea what's happened. And before he knows it, another year has passed. And just as he's starting to get to grips with that passage of time, another year passes. And this continues. And I love this kind of film. It's kind of a time loop. It's not the same day over and over again, but it is pretty much 1 year to the day again and again. And I just love films like this. And I just think it works so well. They handled the passage of time so fantastically. And we just have subtle changes every year to keep things moving forward. And I think it was done brilliantly. It is very funny, but it's also very moving. There are a couple of quotes that I want to share. Well, I think one quote in particular and a couple of emotional moments as well, but they are spoilers. So I will discuss those at the end with a spoiler warning. But I have nothing but praise for this film. This film could have been really difficult for me to watch because I do have a lot of anxiety about the passage of time. It is something that makes me very terrified. And honestly, I didn't feel that. I was able to enjoy the story and benefit from the messages without feeling too negatively affected. So if, like me, you do actually have a lot of issues with the passage of time, then I'd say don't worry. It is presented beautifully with wonderful characters, great performances, and a strong reminder that time does move very quickly, but without feeling too anxiety-inducing. And I think that's largely because it is quite light-hearted most of the time, but with more serious moments peppered throughout. And Teddy is also a really likeable protagonist. And I say that because often with this kind of film, and this isn't a criticism, but often with films that try and encourage the protagonist to rectify the error of their ways, they can be unlikable. They can have some negative personality traits that the film helps them to iron out. That's not to say Teddy is perfect, but he's not starting this journey as an unlikable, problematic character. He is likable from the beginning. Really thoroughly enjoyed following his journey throughout this film. And as I said, I thought it was fantastic. Nothing but praise for it. If you like this kind of film, I think you'll really love Long Story Short. And now, with a huge spoiler warning, I do want to mention a couple of specific things that I think were done particularly well. And I'm not going to say exactly how the film ends, but there are a couple of quite big spoilers here. And the first one is actually a quote that I really loved. And it's very simple, but I think very powerful. And this comes from Leanne. And she says, "We were twice as happy when we earned half as much." And this is about the fact that Teddy has been working non-stop, which is admirable in a sense. He wants to provide for his family. That's why he's working hard. But he's also given up on some of his dreams because he's spending so much time working. And it's a job he's not that particularly happy with. And I think it's important to remember that if you are financially stable and you don't need to work every hour of every day, then maybe you can rein it in a little bit. Obviously, there are times when we do need to work a lot because money is tight or we have other financial obligations. But as Leanne points out, they were twice as happy when they earned half as much. And I feel like that's something that's worth remembering, that money is important. And it is important to work hard, but at the same time, there needs to be a balance. We also have an incredibly emotional part of the film, and part of me wishes they didn't include it because I wasn't ready for it. But I also think it's really powerful. And it's what happens to Sam. I won't go into any more detail than that, but I wasn't prepared for it. I think it was beautifully handled and very, very moving. I am getting emotional thinking about it. I have just finished watching this film, so those emotions are kind of still at the surface. But I thought that was not something I wanted to see, but I think something that was very significant in the film and helped to move the narrative forward as well. So it was done brilliantly, but it definitely helped to, well, it helped to make things a little bit more significant and I guess more impactful, but very, very emotional. And the last thing I want to mention is just the final shot. It is absolutely stunning. It is so well done, and I absolutely adored it. The location for this is so stunning. It's filmed in Australia. We have some gorgeous locations. A lot of it is set by the beach. The house is stunning. The beach is gorgeous. Visually, there's often a lot of beautiful things to look at. And then you throw in this wonderful narrative, gorgeous messages, really likable characters, and great performances. I want for nothing. Long story short, is one that I really hoped I enjoyed. And even though I had a feeling I'd like it, it still managed to exceed my expectations. Definitely one that I'm very happy to recommend.